Hey guys, we are live. Welcome to the Backsearches podcast. I'm your host, Zach Ginn. In today's episode, I'm telling you, we are going to break down James's real estate wholesaling business. He is living the dream life for the average wholesaler looking out. He has an awesome condo. He's living the laptop lifestyle, and he runs one of the largest real estate wholesaling businesses in Jacksonville and next year, probably around the country. I'm so excited to learn about James's virtual wholesaling enterprise, this whole business. And really, we're just going to unravel the curtain today and really see how he's doing it. And most importantly, how you can do the same exact thing. Welcome, James.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you having me on.
All right. So let's get this out of the way. I really want to unravel your business here, but let's get this from the start. How did you get into real estate wholesaling?
Sure. So I started in 2010. I was working at a bridge company. So we actually did the Woodrow Wilson in DC. It was a school company, but it was the 9-to-5 grind, right? That everyone wants to get out of the rat race. And, same type of story where I just happened to have a friend that was wholesaling. And I was going to become an agent. So I was going to go to school and get my license. And I learned about what he was doing and seeing his success. And I'm like, man, I want to do this. He wouldn't really share with me a lot of like how he was doing it. It was more of, the scarcity mindset there. So what I did is back then YouTube was still new and everything else. And I just started like going on YouTube and like doing research, trying to figure out anything that I possibly could of what this was. Right. And, actually, I started figuring it out, man. Then that's how I did it. And then I took the leap, started sending some direct mail and ended up getting my first deal for $4,000. It was like 4 or 5 months after I learned about it. And then I did my second deal, which was a 2-house package for $20,000 and most money I've ever seen in my life. When I started, I had $900, right? Like that's how I started. And, not saying I recommend this, but once I did that second deal, I was like, all right, that's it. I'm all in. And I quit my job and the rest is history.
Wow. And what city was this all in, your first couple deals?
That was in St. Augustine. Well, it's Jacksonville, St. Augustine area. Yeah.
Okay. So my question here is, so looking back right now, if someone looks from the outside, you're living in Miami, you got a pretty cool apartment, you're living the lifestyle, you're recording YouTube videos, you're helping people out in wholesaling, but how are you doing deals from your apartment? This makes no sense for the average investor.
Yeah, well, I also have a partner too. So I have a full-blown, like my operation runs out of Jacksonville. Okay. And, so we do a lot of fix and flips. We obviously do wholesale, stuff like that. And we do a lot of deals there, right? And then we also do deals throughout Florida, and then, in some other states, right? So what's really good about the situation that I have is, my business partner and I are the exact like opposite in the best way possible, right? So we really, really work well together. He works more on like the fix and flips and like, dealing with raising the money and the investors and all that stuff. And then I work more on the wholesale side, like the sales, the marketing. So it's a really good blend that we have there, playing to each other's strengths. And it just works really well, man.
All right. Who's the visionary and who's the integrator between you two?
This is where it gets even better. We're both visionaries.
How do you make that work?
Huh?
How do you make that work?
Yeah. So one thing that was very important to me, and if you want, I can tell you the story and like how we met and everything else. That's really up to you. But our values and everything are very aligned. So for me, it was important that I never thought that I would want a business partner, right? Like that was never in the cards that I was like, oh, I want to go with a good business partner at all. So we just happened to meet up and we were running across each deals, right? So back then, this was like 2013. It was very, very like Craigslist and like posting deals and finding buyers. That was like some of the hottest time I remember of like Craigslist was a big, big thing. So we just kept running across deals. We talked. I'm like, hey, I have this super hot lead in a great area. Why don't we just meet up there tomorrow? We did. We walked the house. And he was like, hey, what do you think if I bring the money, if I could raise the money for this and we actually flip this house? I was like, sure. I'd never flipped the house at the time. And we flipped that house. We did the Home Depot trips together, the whole 9 yards, brought in one of our buddies. That was a GC. And we actually ended up making over $100,000 on that deal. Yeah, for our first flip. So that'll get you excited really quick, right? And, we just noticed that we worked really well together. Again, like the values were aligned and everything else. And what's crazy about us being two visionaries is there's never really been a time in our business to where we hit a stalemate that was like, all right, I'm on this side and you're on that side. We've always found a way to make it work. And part of that is our visions align. Right. That's really the key. So as long as you could be two visionaries, but if the visions are in alignment, then you're okay. But, we obviously have to have someone that is also the integrator on the team, which we do.
Okay. And so what is your real estate virtual wholesaling business? I mean, I think your real estate virtual business is very similar to mine, which I really like. It is, you have boots on the ground there. You got some people doing it over the phones. You got it all going on. But what does your virtual wholesaling business look like right now?
As far as what, like team marketing?
Like the whole system.
Okay, sure. So like I said, I'm down here, right? Like I'll go back and forth. We actually own 2 offices, or we own one and then we rent one in Jacksonville. And then people will bounce in and out, but it's for the most part, it's fully remote, right? Like most people work from home. That's like US based, like up there in that area, we have 7 people. And then we also have 5 VAs that, do a lot of texting for us and like miscellaneous, like administrative tasks and everything else. But as far as the office goes, like it's not packed out. It's not cranking people. The office manager will go in and out, cut checks to like subcontractors, stuff like that. But for the most part, everyone's fully remote. So we'll have obviously acquisitions, we have dispositions, we have project manager, we have office manager, we have full-time marketing on staff. We gotta build out, man, and we're planning on expanding out even bigger than that, much bigger, going into 2021.
Nice. And would you say, what's the percentage of the deals that you'll actually take down and flip versus the ones you'll just wholesale?
So we try to stay around like 50 flips per year. So that's really, we're at least looking to buy 2 or 3 a month. On average that we're going to flip. And sometimes those won't even just be our deals. Every once in a while we'll buy some from wholesalers as well. It's not as common, but we do buy deals from other people too. Okay.
So would you say about half then?
No, I would say 20% maybe.
Jeez.
20%.
People hear 50, they're like, oh my gosh, that must be a whole full year of transactions for someone. Wow. So, geez. And so the rest you're wholesaling.
Yeah. I mean, primarily that's the focus, is the wholesale.
Okay. And are these fix and flips, are they like wholesales or like full on renovations?
Both. We do some that are wholesales in and out where, we might take it down and do like some quick paint, carpet, something like that, and then just relist it on the MLS. And then we've also done a lot of historic flips. We have 1, 2, 3. We have like 4 or 5 historic districts up there. And we do a lot of historic flips as well. So, I mean, those are crazy renovations, but they usually pay really well. And, we have good crews and processes in place to handle that.
All right. And so just to take a zoom out of here, overall in the business, I mean, you're crushing this, but I just really want to take a deep dive on this just to help the people out if they want to not copy your business, but really try to see if they can duplicate your success in Duval County and anywhere else in the U.S. So primarily for you, how are you pulling your lists?
We use our software.
Okay, what is that?
RA Automator. Yeah, that's literally where we pull all our data.
Okay. And is it like your website?
Yeah, it's flipmorehouses.com.
Okay.
That's where you could access it.
All right, and you're pulling your data from there. And what's your top list for 2020, you would say?
Man, I'm going to tell you right now, and I just posted this the other day, and I was like, even when I was posting it, I'm like, it's one of those where I'm like, do I really want to post it? I think if you really think about opportunity, right, that a big part of that is looking at what the current events are around you, and what's going on in the country. And I think like one of the hottest lists is going to be for 2020 or 2021 is like 55 plus landlords that own multiple properties, right? So everyone always markets to individuals that own one property, right? Like that's the most common, list that everyone talks about pulling. But if you want to do more deals, why wouldn't you market to someone that owns multiple properties that will potentially be liquidating anyway soon, just due to age, right? And not in all cases, but in certain cases. And then with the economic climate, with people not paying rent and stuff like that, and combined with the market being very, very high right now, it's just a very, very strong recipe for landlords like that to liquidate their property. So that would provide you an opportunity to not just buy one property, but potentially a whole portfolio of properties that you could take down.
I 100% agree with you. That has been my top list. My top deal this year, $70,000 wholesale. I made it from a deal, especially, in Florida, Ron DeSantis kept delaying the eviction moratorium. And I had a landlord, he was like 60. He was like, I'm done. I'm like, I'm giving you this house. You deal with it. And got the landlord out, cash for keys. It was amazing. And honestly, from that 4-month period, I think April to maybe November, it was the best list. Now evictions are starting to go on more and more, but hands down, that's been the best one for me in Florida. So
it's a crusher, man.
Oh man. And then for 2021, are you still looking to do that list, do you think, primarily?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're going to be hitting that list. I mean, we're going to be hitting all of them, but that list is definitely a big one. That's on our radar. And actually we like doing a lot of like virtual driving for dollars too. Because we can do that in the software, and like just going into strategic neighborhoods that we know that produce the biggest fees. So like at the end of the year, we'll do our end of the year meeting. We'll say, all right, so here's all the deals that we did. Where were the best fees, right, and the easiest deals to actually close? And that's what we'll do. So we'll go into those neighborhoods, and just in case, right, like some of these properties don't make it on a certain list. Right. And like you might not even know about them, but they're there. So we'll have one of the VAs go in there and virtually drive for dollars, and just like anything that looks like it needs work, build that list, and we'll hit that multiple ways with some omni-channel marketing as well.
Nice. And can you do age with REI Automator?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. I don't think PropStream's got that. So it's just interesting seeing how that.
Well, remember, I got the back end too.
Awesome. So yeah, guys, that's interesting. Age is definitely something. I'm telling you, I don't think I've done a deal this year from someone under the age of 30. So it's definitely something interesting to look at.
And I'm going to tell you, man, like when we look at our data, like most of our sellers, they're all at a minimum usually in their 40s. Like we'll get some in their 30s, and every once in a while maybe in their 20s, but for the most part, they're typically that, like middle age and older demographic.
All right. And once you're pulling these amazing lists, I mean, that's half the equation, and then the marketing and acquisitions is after that. But how are you actually marketing to those lists?
So many ways. We still do actually a lot of direct mail. I mean, I've done direct mail since that was like how I started, and I still do some today. We're not doing nowhere near the volume that we were at one time. Like a couple of years ago, we were sending over 100,000 plus postcards, a month for a while. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So it was a lot, and it's a lot of money, right? It's a big marketing budget. So we've really just kept refining over time, digging into the data, what works the best, what doesn't, to just keep whittling that down to, what's the optimal amount that we can send? What's the optimal amount that we can send and still produce the results? So that's what we're always looking at, right? And then we're going to text them. So we're big on texting. We also do a little bit of cold calling. And as far as like other marketing channels, we do like the PPC. But as far as the lists go, we try to stay with like texting, direct mail.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm a big direct mail guy. I think it always works. I think with new regulations coming with cold calling and SMS, I'm still going to keep it going. Again, it's the only marketing channel the government supports. So I always love that. So you're doing that, cold calling, SMS, direct mail. Is there any other ones that you having more success in that's kind of on the breakout?
What, as far as like marketing channel?
Yeah. Is there anything you're testing out there and you're having any success with?
As far as testing, I mean, we're always testing different stuff in those channels, and I mean, we've tried just about every channel that you could could think of over time, and we've just really, again, like optimized like the channels that have always performed best for us, to get those results that we're looking for. So we're still testing like texting, like we'll test like all different types of messages, right? So we're always changing up the messages and like trying different like little unique messages that aren't that common, that people kind of catch people off guard, stuff like that. And with direct mail, the same thing. We'll test different stuff, but we've really gotten direct mail down to a point where we don't test as much in direct mail because we know what works really, really well. And every time like we test something new at this point, it's like it still gets the results, but it never gets as good of results as what we've proven to work the best, which is crazy. And we've done some crazy stuff too. Like we've tried all kinds of stuff with direct mail that's really, really interesting. That's outside of the box, and it all usually goes back to about like 5 to 10 different pieces that perform the best.
Yeah. All right. And have you messed with letters at all, or is it mostly postcards?
Oh yeah, we do some letters. We're not nowhere near as many as we do postcards, but yeah, we still do some letters as well.
Okay. And since you're blasting that stuff out, when it comes to your acquisitions, I always say it's probably one of the most important bottlenecks you can have in your whole business. How are you training your acquisitions people, and how does that whole acquisition system look for you?
Sure. So, well, depending on which side, right, whether it's an in-person or, the virtual side. With the virtual side, what we've done is essentially created like a quick start process to onboard fast. See, where I made a big mistake, and a lot of people I think make this mistake, is they're out there when they're like, all right, I need an acquisitions person. So ideally, this person knows about real estate already, or if they don't, then when I bring them on, I want them to know like how to run comps and this and that and the other, and all this crazy stuff that can take a lot of time that you invest into someone, and before they've even proven to you that they're going to actually be able to do it and generate the results. So we've done this multiple times over the years where we poured into these people, invested in them, and then they turn out not being good, right? Then we have to get rid of them. We wasted time, we wasted money. So we do our best to try to avoid that. And we have like what's called offer automator. So it's like an offer calculator feature in the software. So the onboarding is more like a day of like, hey, this is everything that you really need to know. Here's how you're going to calculate your offers as the leads are coming in, and you got a week, right? So at the end of this week, we're going to evaluate and like see where we're at. And if the results aren't there, if we don't see the potential, or it doesn't work out for either side, then we're just going to part ways and move on. So we found that to be very, very effective, just simply because, especially in the virtual game, and this is just my opinion, right? Like looking at it from a business perspective, is you need to start looking at it more as a product than real estate, right? When you think of it as real estate, then it just feels more complicated. Right. It just feels a lot more nuanced than if you just said, hey, this is a product that we buy and sell to make money. Right. So here's a streamlined process on how we're going to acquire these properties. Here's the streamlined process on how we're going to, disposition these properties. And, when you look at it more like that, I think things can become a lot more clear and easier to like build out the team versus making it like this super convoluted process of like, you got a crash course 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month worth of all this real estate content. And like, then you're going to go out there and start actually seeing if you can do the job or not. It's just a big time waste in my opinion.
Okay. And so in your business right now, how many acquisitions people do you have?
2 right now. So we just lost one. And we're going to be hiring like 4, 3 or 4 in January, because again, we're about to expand it out. We're opening up 4 new states. And then we're going to, by the end of the first quarter, the goal is to essentially be the entire country.
Okay. And what is the biggest no-no when it comes to hiring an acquisitions person?
The biggest no-no. That's a good question. No one's ever asked me that. The biggest no-no. Let me think about that. The biggest no-no. I would say a big one that I see a lot of people do is they get super invested in someone and feel like, hey, this person is definitely going to be like the one, especially when you're new and you start building out the team, instead of letting the results speak for themselves. Right. So it's like, I would rather not really mix my feelings in on like what I think based on their resume or the way they test on the predictive index, because that's what we'll have them do. We make them go through predictive index. And, that's part of the hiring process to make sure like their profile like matches like what a strong acquisition person would be. And, some people just like they just look at it on paper and think, oh, this person's going to be great. But you really don't know. Until they're in the game and actually doing it, you really don't know what's going to happen. So, kind of making that predetermined, notion that they're going to be great, and then they don't. And then this, again, I've been there where I've done that. And then I invest all this time and energy into someone, they turn out not being good at all. So that's a big one for me.
Okay. And for the ones that the acquisitions people that never work out, is there a common trait you've seen with all of them?
Yeah, man. Usually they'll test really, really well, right? But they feel like, and this is common with salespeople, right? Like salespeople have big, bold personalities typically, right? Like they're kind of like, they're closers. And what I have found that's common across all of them is they typically start feeling like they can do it better than you, but they really can't. Because they usually prove that they're not good at all, but then they want to get in there and start changing the process and everything else. And it's like, you're not even closing deals yet. So it's like, stop blaming the process. Like there's only one variable here, right? That is not proven, and that's you. It's not the process. The process is proven. So typically it's that they start looking for other things to blame, that it's not them, it's something else instead of themselves.
Definitely. My personal favorites when my acquisitions guy decides to leave to start his own wholesaling business and then goes out within 3 months.
Yeah, no, that's common. That hasn't happened to me yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I hear about it all the time. Many friends that's had it happen to them.
All right. And so the acquisitions, it's more or less a revolving door sometimes. Again, I really want to deep dive on this because in my 4 years, throughout my whole businesses, that is always the hardest one. That's taken me the longest to really figure out, is getting the right guy in there. And how do you keep an acquisitions guy happy and in the actual business without having them, want to wander off or leave?
Well, a big thing is with salespeople is they want to feel like they're going to grow, right? Which is also typical of many other employees. So I think what happens is a lot of people put them in this box, right? So they get hired. They're like, all right, so here's your base. Here's what you can make, percentage on the deal, yada, yada, yada. And then it's like, that's it, right? So a lot of them just keep them stagnant at that. So if you bring them up to a high level percentage or where it's going to affect your business, you know what I mean? If you start bringing them above that, if you bring them up at that top tier already before they've even proven themselves, guess what? Like it's going to be hard to retain them because they're going to, even though they could be making a lot of money, right? A lot of money. They just feel like their growth is capped. And that's a big deal for an acquisitions person or anyone in sales. They always want to feel like they can do more. Now, the argument can be made that it's like, oh, well, you know, from the owner or the boss's perspective that, oh, well, if you want to make more, just do more, produce more, whatever. Well, what happens when they, you know, once you have one sales guy that's producing like $1.5 million or more, you know, a year by themselves. And, you know, they are grinding like 70 hours a week. Like there is no more they can do. So where do they go? Right? Like they hit this ceiling and they want to feel like they're growing. So a big thing is bringing them in at a level that they can actually grow and progress with you in the company and potentially move up. So the company needs to be growing at the same time to potentially make them like a sales manager or something, right? Where you can increase and reward them for their results.
All right. And how do you train your acquisitions people? Because Duval County, there's a lot of killers out there. I'm not going to lie. There's some really good guys, but there's enough deals to be done there. What do you tell your acquisitions person? What should they do when they meet a seller? Because 2021, there's more saturation than ever. What do you tell your acquisitions person to do when they're in a situation when there's like 6 wholesalers after one crazy motivated seller? How do they get the deal?
So for one, I tell them that we don't do bidding wars, right? So it's going to be the exact opposite of what most people are going to do. Most people are going to say, oh, well, you know, I can give you, you know, $80,100. I can, you know, increase the binder. I can do this. I can do that. They're chasing the deal. We retract, right? So it's like we hold ourselves to a higher standard. We're not going to get into a bidding war. Like we know the value that we provide and that's it. So, you know, we'll just do the takeaway. Right. And it's usually different than what the seller experiences with everyone else because they're chasing the deal. They're chasing the money. Like we don't need the deal. Right. So we're in a position to where if we don't get the deal, it's okay. We'll get another deal maybe later today or maybe tomorrow, but we don't need this deal. So that's the position that we take.
Okay. And how important is speed for you guys?
In what way?
Do you tell your acquisitions person, you know, try to close the deal as fast as possible, especially over the phones, or are you trying to get better deals and kind of build a rapport more?
No, I mean, I'm fine. So both, right? And the way that I train them is it depends, right? It's almost like this is when it starts getting really deep, right? Like into the training side and like the progression and how they're growing and, you know, like doing coaching every day with them and everything else. It depends. It depends on the deal and it depends on the situation. There's certain instances where I'll say, look, we're going to like hard push. Let's get it closed. And then there's going to be certain instances where I'm like, hey, you know, they're not ready in the selling cycle yet. So it's fine. We can just go ahead and let them do their thing and we'll follow up aggressively and see what happens.
All right. And so you keep getting these deals, you got them locked up. Who makes the decision on if this is going to be a flip and you're just going to make that into a cash cow, and who makes the decision is just going to be a wholesale?
Yeah, so my business partner a lot of times will make the call, and if he's like, oh, you know, we should flip this one, then I'll just let him run with that.
All right. And is there any criteria that you kind of go off of?
Yeah, we try to stay below typically right at the median or below. So like 300,000 and less. And then ideally, we have it broken out into different areas where it's like in this area, we want this price range and only this much rehab. In this area, we'll be willing to go above that. Because we do some nicer properties too. Like we have a flip right now that's like on the water in Jacksonville. It's $700,000 flip. So we just have it broken out to where, hey, these are the areas. This is what we're willing to do as far as rehab in these areas. And we just make the decision based on that.
Okay. I mean, that's what I appreciate you coming on here. I mean, a lot of people find it very sexy. I mean, you're on TikTok showing $100,000 wholesale checks. I mean, they're amazing. It's awesome. But in my personal opinion, wholesaling is just one part of the equation. I mean, becoming a full real estate investor is so important. I mean, when did you really make the transition from a wholesaler to doing like complete real estate investing?
I would say about 2015. 2015. So I'd been in it about 5 years. And we went back and forth. So for a while there, we only flipped, fix and flip. We stopped wholesaling and we're like, you know what, we're just going to do fix and flips. But the problem that you run into there, and this is why like we found doing a blend is really, really great, especially when you're like new or starting out with like fix and flips, right? Is cash flow is tough. Right? Like when you're like doing like all fix and flips, because you're not, I mean, these are months, usually down the road before you get paid. And then if you're over budget on stuff and then you didn't budget enough for that rehab, right? Well, guess what? That money's coming out of your pocket. So it can really hurt cash flow a lot, just flipping houses, until you get to a point with a level of cash that it's like, okay, if I don't get paid for the next 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, like it's not that big of a deal. Right. But like you got to have that type of cash if you just want to flip, do fix and flips. So I like the blend, man. Like we use the wholesaling business is like the cash machine that generates the cash to provide us with other opportunities in real estate investing. So it's cool too. We just bought in downtown St. Augustine like a couple months ago. Which for anyone that doesn't know, St. Augustine is the oldest city in the entire country. I don't know if everyone knows that or not, but like right in the heart of downtown, it's so hard to get deals there, like extremely, extremely difficult in the center of downtown. And it's we're going to Airbnb it, but it's like it's on like 2 of the ghost tours and stuff. It's supposed to be like one of the most haunted houses in St. Augustine. So it was pretty cool. That we ended up getting a crusher deal on that. We paid like $325, $550 for it, and just ARV, you know what I mean, on paper, it would be about $650-ish. But we got an offer for a commercial lease that we might potentially take for $10,000 a month. So if we take that commercial lease, now we're up at like $900,000 if we wanted to do a cash out. So which is huge, and like we'll be into this thing, for about 440, 450 total. So that's an awesome deal that is like a wealth deal where we're going to keep that in our portfolio. We'll probably never sell it.
All right. And on the disposition side here, so obviously you do some flipping, you'll keep some of them. When it comes to actually doing the cash buyers and, putting people through there and assigning them, what's your biggest secret for building cash buyers list?
The biggest secret, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a secret. I mean, I typically share, everything. I'm pretty open book. We do have a very, large buyers list because, doing this 10 years, like you build a lot of buyers. But we have just a streamlined process, man. It's like, we get the deal, like we'll send it out to the list. We'll go into RA Automator. We'll pull all the buyers around it. We'll hit them up. We'll post. If we haven't sold it at that point, a lot of times we've already sold it by that point because, we're in hot markets. Then we'll go into like the local meetup.com groups and we'll send an email out to all the members in those groups. Then we'll go to Facebook if we don't, find anything there. So there's a lot of these little like other like hacks that you can do that really require more work. But at this point, like we're at a situation where we don't really need to, go too far beyond that.
All right. And I got one last question for James before I let you guys comment below and really get your comments in and your questions for James, because it's sometimes hard to get a guy like James on here who's actually in this business doing really good stuff. So James, on TikTok, you're showing some pretty cool videos. You got some great like checks you just show. I mean, go follow him there, but you're doing $100,000 wholesales, and that's a big barrier for a lot of people. I mean, in Port St. Lucie, just the way the prices are, 70 is kind of the top line for us. So how are you doing 6-figure wholesale deals?
Dude, I'll tell you what, man, a lot of it comes down to like when you have a lot of opportunities and you have a strong sales process, it's inevitable that you're going to come across them. right? So, many times it's just either the sales skills aren't strong enough or you're not generating enough opportunities to pop off those kinds of deals. And what we find is about, a couple every like quarter, or so, or like just huge deals that will come across. And, we go through a lot of opportunities to get them. But one of the big things, like keys to this that I'll tell you, is get an asking price. That's where a lot of people make the mistake. All right. Is they present the offer. And, then it's like, oh, well, if you present the offer, obviously you're not going to make an offer to get $100,000 deal.
No.
Right. But if you have an asking price, then there's a good chance that you might be able to get a big deal. So that's really like a big key there.
Okay. And is there any keys from actually trying to sell those deals? So when you're doing 100,000 plus assignment, are you double closing on these?
Oh yeah, we double close those. We don't assign them.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
There. So
now I know people that do $100,000 assignments. So we don't do them. We usually always double close just because it's not that difficult for us, like to just go ahead and double close it. But typically with that big, we wouldn't assign it. But I mean, I think we did one that was like an $87,000 assignment, I believe.
Jeez, anything over 40 is getting scared.
That was a single family house. Yeah.
All right. So let's get some questions going here. So we got Scott, pen and paper ready for notes. Cherry says, hey, James, I met you at Sean Terry's Extreme Freedom Live 2019.
Nice. Hey.
All right. Sweet. Let's see. We got Micah Cowper. What's up, Micah? Watching from the Big D. You and your pops are awesome. There's no one out there that shares as much as you and your family. Just closed 3 hours ago. Nice, man. Sweet.
Nice.
Got some gems. Everyone's just showing the love here. An Investor's Journey asks, how much is REI Automator per month?
It's $97 a month.
Okay. That's pretty good. And how many polls do you get on there?
How many what?
So how much data can you pull with that $97?
You can download 10,000.
All right, sweet. And let's see, way to go. I have 11 going. And then he or she asking, what software are you using to manage your texting?
So for texting, we use Launch Control.
All right, sweet. And that's unlimited, right?
Well, no, we have the biggest plan. It's not unlimited.
Okay.
I think we pay like $1,000 a month for ours because we send thousands of texts a day.
Wow. And how are you actually moving? Do you have to move your phone numbers constantly with that?
Yeah, we're always switching up numbers and stuff like that. And but that's pretty common for all of the platforms that I've seen is like, you got to rotate your numbers.
Definitely.
You want to do that.
All right. And let's see, PC asks, how do you test your cold calls? That's cold callers?
How do I test my cold calls?
Cold call.
Not quite sure.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure.
Let's see. Crucially wants to know, what if you can bring on people and train them, then you get the % of the profits to make them stay. That's interesting. I would never do that though.
No, I do have a good friend of mine that I'm in Collective Genius. And yeah, a good friend of mine in there. What he did, which was interesting, I've never seen anyone else do it, is he wanted to remove himself even more from the business. He has a really big team. He's a virtual wholesaler. He's in I think 6-7 different markets. He does a lot of deals, like 300-400 deals a year. And what he did is start, once he had a really, really strong team, he started giving everyone a little percentage, of just a little teeny, nothing crazy, but just a little piece to where they felt that they had that ownership in the company and it felt like it was more theirs. And, that really, he said, once he did that, they excelled and, they're consistently growing, but that wouldn't be for me. Probably I'm the same side as you on that, Zach, but yeah, it works. It's worked before. I've seen it work, at least up until this point.
Interesting here. And then see, what's up, Zach? I'm helping my dad wholesale his house as a 3-2. One bed and one bath have fire damage though. How does that affect the value of the property? Do you do a lot of fire damage houses, James?
Not a lot. That one that we were talking about before I got on, before we went live, that one in West Palm Beach that we're doing, which we'll probably, I think we're going to flip it. It's on the water, but it is a fire damage deal. So I was just talking about fire damage the other day. If you go to fire damage, I forget if it's fire damage property. Yeah, firedamageproperties.com. That's what I'd use. And I just sign up, and then, they'll just give you notifications every day of all the fire damage properties in whatever area or state that you're in. And then you can just skip trace them, and then boom, you got fire damage leads.
Sweet. So technically on this question, if one of the bed and bathrooms is fire damaged, yes, it does affect the property value.
Absolutely.
But you can get a discount on that. Scott wants to know, does REI Automated work in Dallas?
Absolutely.
All right. And let's see, DeMarion says late. No worries, bro. No worries. Did you start making those big deals, or did you work up to that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I mean, the first fix and flip we did was $100,000. So that was, you can almost count that the luck, right? For the most part. But we've always been pretty good about doing $20,000 to $40,000 like range deals. Like our average deal size range is usually about $20,000. And it was even higher than that for a while. So it was a couple years, you know what I mean, before we started getting into like the big deals, for the huge profits. It is a process, right? Like you gotta, start learning the markets that you're in and everything else in the areas, and seeing like where you can go big and, where not to go big. So.
And when you started out with the flipping, how did you get the money to actually do that flip?
So he raised it. That was the whole deal when I met him there. He was like, you got this deal, which is a great deal. It's in Ponte Vedra Beach, where they do like the Players Championship and everything, if you like golf. So I was like, yeah, dude, if you can raise the money and you want to flip it, like I'm down to flip it. And that's how it worked.
All right, sweet. And Viviana asks, after how many deals did you decide to bring on more people?
So that's a great question too. This is what I think about that. I personally like, getting in there and learning the business, and maybe I'm biased because that's how I did it. So I think that you should push it until it really becomes like you are the bottleneck and you're holding yourself back from doing more deals. I mean, one person by themselves, you can do six figures in this business, like by yourself with no team, nobody else. Like you should have great profit margins. So whenever you feel like you're capped out in like your time or the time that you're willing to allocate towards the business, then it's time to start hiring out people. But you need to have consistency, right? Like don't start hiring unless you're consistently closing deals. If you're closing a deal this month and then you might not close another deal for the next 3 months, don't hire anyone yet. Like you got to start seeing that consistency. And then in my opinion, start capping out a little bit on your time and start hiring out.
All right. I'm definitely with you there. I mean, I was making six figures by myself, but
it's a lot of work, but yeah, you learn the business though. So it really like plays to your advantage when you start hiring people, because you understand all the different aspects. Like you were a transaction coordinator, you were dispositions, you were acquisition, you were marketing, you were all these different pieces. So you have more of an intimate understanding of these different pieces in the business. So when you start hiring, like, what you're teaching them and training them to do.
Definitely. And Wu-Tang, cool name, man. I'm loving this right here. If you had to choose between Facebook ads or texting from marketing coming 2021, which would you choose?
So for me, I've done a lot of both. I do a lot of texting right now. And even though it is like becoming more and more regulated, more and more, little stress points coming up here and there for texting, I'm going to ride that thing till the wheels fall off because it does work extremely well. What I found with Facebook, if you're going to do Facebook, you really need to, put a good sized budget behind it. That's where I see a lot of people fail on Facebook is they get started. And I'm not saying immediately, like obviously you need to test and work your way up. Don't just start a campaign and say it's $20,000 a month or something. But, what I found with Facebook leads, though, is they're just there's good deals in there, man, but it is really tough. You just get a lot of flaky people from Facebook ads. That's just been my experience. So I don't run them right now, but I have spent a lot of money on Facebook.
I agree. I mean, I did the same thing in Florida, pretty close to yours. So yeah, same exact thing. Mike says, without an A-team contractors, this can be really hurt your flip. So how do you find your A-team of contractors?
It was a painful, very costly process. It was a very expensive, painful process. I'll put it to you like that. We have lost, I'm going to tell you, there's some war stories of, just time and money that we've lost with hiring the wrong people. So you can try to get referrals and everything like that from, like the meetup.com groups in your market, like the RIAs, whatever. But this is what I'm going to tell you about the best of the best crews is typically they are already working for someone and like they're never going to be referred out. Right. So it's really with the crews, it's like trial and error of like trying them out until you find the right one. And then just watching it really close. And just make sure you have your agreement in place where if they're not working out, you're never giving them too much money, in advance and stuff like that. You got to really keep that tight. And that way it's like, if they're not working out, then just get rid of them and try another one. But no one will ever refer you like those prime crews because they're going to do their best to keep them busy, and keep them going for them when they work out really well. So that was the most difficult part. That's really the key to the entire fix and flip game. The money, like that isn't as big of a deal. There's tons and tons of money out there. Finding the right crews and right team to actually tackle the projects and do it timely and on budget, that's the real key to the game.
Definitely. Have any nightmare stories with any contractors?
Oh, dude. We've had crews like disappear on us, like, where we've done advances and like they ghost us for like a month and then we just lose the money. And dude, it just goes on and on and on. We've lost thousands and thousands of dollars, and just even on shoddy work too. One time, because of some shoddy work, we actually got sued on this one flip that we did. And, it's like, it was hard for us to disagree. Even though it was like, it wasn't that bad, it was enough to where, and I believe it was like a paint issue on the exterior where we had some lead paint, I believe. And I think for one, they didn't do the right process where you bring in, like you do the trash bags, you get hazmat, all that stuff. And then, so they were like, they kind of just went over it and it started flaking off. That was one issue. And then some stuff inside on the interior of the house that was just shoddy. And that was a newer crew that we had tried out. So we ended up just settling and saying, all right, well, here's $10,000. So it's like, the crews, if you can find the right crews and like just the right team to do fix and flips, you can make a ton of money and you can do really, really well. But that is certainly the key component.
All right, sweet. And Scott wants to know, what's your website information and how can it be integrated with Podio?
Yeah. So, depending on, we have everything set up. It depends on like how you want to integrate with Podio. Like in what way are you trying to integrate it? And I could answer that question, more specifically, but the website information is it's flipmorehouses.com.
All right. So just confirm this. This is the right one, right?
Yep.
All right, guys. Flipmorehouses.com. And then let's see. Cruciati says, honestly, I'm not big on cold calling. Is there any way to be involved or hire cold callers so I don't personally have to do it?
Yeah, absolutely. You can hire cold callers if you want. Some people actually enjoy cold calling. Usually the most sales savages are the ones that enjoy it. But I mean, most people I know don't enjoy cold calling either. But yeah, I don't like the VA cold calling as much. So for me, like if I'm hiring cold callers, I at least want them like native, even if they are a VA, US based VA, if you want to do it that way, depending on what market you're in. If you're in a market like Miami, right, like you could get like native Spanish speaking cold callers, and you would probably actually do better than having English speaking cold callers. So you definitely, any market like Miami and like South Florida, bilingual cold callers 100%, or you're not getting anywhere, because there's just a lot of people here that don't even speak English. So I would do US based VAs. I'm not big on doing the overseas VAs for cold calling. We use them for texting. But we just never had great results with them as like cold callers, just because they don't understand the native language as well. And then there's usually delays in the calls and stuff like that. So in our experience, that doesn't work out that well. So if you want to do that, VAs, but US based.
All right. And, guys, if you're getting any value, comment below. Show James that he's providing some value, guys. He's definitely dropping the gems today. So Mike wants to know, do you have private investors fund deals? Have you ever used hard money lenders? Would you recommend using hard money lenders?
Yeah, so we typically use private money. Like we've raised a lot of private money. Yes, we've used hard money lenders many times as well. But we typically have anywhere between like $2 to $3 million like rolling, you know what I mean? And like private money, like with deals out that we're like actively flipping, or, whatever we're doing with them. We have much more than that available. But for me, like I like private money a lot more because it's a lot more relationship based, right? So usually there's more flexibility there, versus hard money lenders. Like usually the terms are the terms. Right? Like here's the types of deals that we're willing to do. Here's what we're not. Here's the terms. Like they might be slightly negotiable, and on certain things if you know what you're looking for. But for the most part, private money is much more of a relationship where you might be flipping single family houses, and then you're like, hey, I got this one I want to take down as a rental. Can we do a deal on that? And they're like, yeah. Or you're like, hey, I found a freaking apartment building. Depending on like the level of like money this individual might have, are you willing to get into that? So I prefer much more of the relationship based, private money than I would over hard money. But starting out, like there's nothing wrong with using some hard money lenders as well.
Definitely. All right. And last question here. Yeah, I'm in South Florida just looking to get my first deal, but not sure to approach I want to pursue taken. If you're in South Florida like him, how would you get your first deal?
I'm gonna tell you what, man. I would trying to get, when you're brand new and like you're talking about one of the hottest markets in the entire country. Obviously, you already have so many people doing like the main marketing channels at scale. Not saying that you can't do a deal that way, right? But the faster you could get to the deal, the more likelihood that you could get to a deal faster is doing some of the ways that they're not doing. Right. So like going back to what I was talking about before, doing like the virtual driving for dollars, right? Like, pull a list, like, see, like go around like, all right, this one looks good. This one looks good. The ones that need deferred maintenance, that need work, build a list of those. And start hitting them directly and aggressively, and then you're going to be doing some of the stuff that a lot of these other like bigger players in the markets, they're not doing. They're much more like streamlined. They have these marketing channels that they're doing like at scale, so they're not going to be willing to do more of the lower stuff, right? Like door knocking, driving for dollars. Like most of them aren't going to do that type of stuff. So I think the opportunity to get in is to get your first deal as fast as possible with minimal dollars invested is going that direction.
Wow. All right. Let's see here. And so my last couple of questions here is, James, this year for 2020 basically, what was the largest wholesaling deal you've done?
The largest one was, I believe, $101,300, something like that.
Jeez. That's crazy. So when someone in Jacksonville or Duval County says, there's just no deals here, it's just too saturated. I mean, what are your thoughts when people just say that? Because I hear it all the time.
Oh yeah. I mean, so I tell you what you could do that would, just alleviate that immediately. Just pull the cash transactions. Like as an example, you could go into, even if you don't have any of the softwares, whatever, just go into list source. You know what I mean? You don't even have to buy the list and then just pull. Right? Like here's all the cash buyers over the last year that bought a property. Just do 2 or more properties, right? Because in that way you're removing any of the like homeowners that paid cash. So just look at how many that is, right? And those are all deals that closed last year. So that'll show you it's a staggering amount in most markets, right? Like Duval County, as an example, it's a lot. So when you look at that, you're like, okay, I haven't even scratched the surface on how many cash transactions are truly happening. So the business is there. Really, you're just playing the game of how do I get some of that business? That's really what you're doing, because the transactions are happening. Like the deals are happening. You just have to make it happen for you. But no, I mean, abundance mentality. And how can you work with other people? I always take the approach of not trying to look at it as like, oh, there's no deals, whatever. How can I work with other people and do more deals? How can you start building relationships with other wholesalers in the market? Maybe you have buyers that they don't have that pay premium prices, stuff like that. So you got to take that positive approach in there, and don't get, caught up in thinking, oh, there's not enough deals. Trust me, there is plenty of deals out there to do.
Definitely. I mean, the reason why I had you on the podcast and the reason why I vet every single guy is, I mean, you got a lot of followers on Instagram. I think one of the biggest problems, especially coming in 2021, there's a lot of people out there, wearing a Gucci shirt and they have the nice car and they're just saying,
Yeah.
my wholesaling training. I mean, you have a 30-day wholesaling training that's free that's coming up. But honestly, there's just so many guys out there not doing deals. And I've seen you show checks. You're legitimate. You'll actually share the deals. That's why I appreciate it. You're a giver here. I mean, how can someone watching this, when they go on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, they're looking at their feed and they see a lot of young guns out here, just showing that they're making all this money. How can someone know who should I actually learn from and who should I actually follow? Because your time is very important when you're following these people. How do you, when you're talking to other people networking, try to get the people that are not real versus the legit ones?
Yeah. And, I mean, I've been, like I said, I've been doing it about 10 years, so I can typically sniff it out, pretty quick of like who's real and who's not. And one thing I'll say too about this is the deal thing, right? So when you meet someone in the business, a lot of the first things that you'll say to each other, in conversation is like, oh, how many deals are you doing? How many deals are you doing? Yada, yada, yada. Well, really, the amount of deals doesn't really matter as much as how much money you're making.
Yep.
Right. So that's more of like the vanity side of like, I'm doing 500 deals a year. Well, I can tell you right now, I know people that do 5 deals a year that make millions of dollars. Right. So the number of deals is completely irrelevant, but I know exactly what you're talking about. There's a lot of this out there now where someone will do like 1 deal or 2 deal maybe, and then next thing you know, it's like I got 20 courses and like all these trainings and like follow me and like the Lambo and all that stuff. So one, follow the people that you actually like, that are relatable to you, that fit similar to your personality, and then verify, right? Like proof, right? So like if they're saying they're doing all these deals, they should have no problem showing you like HUDs all the time, the money in the bank all the time. Like that's a lot of the reasons why I do the step-by-step like walkthroughs on some deals now too. Like I'll pull some of my deals because people want to see like from start to finish, what did it look like from when the lead came in to the deal closed? And then I will do literally a step-by-step through the entire process, showing the HUD, showing the money in the bank. So you just need to verify. If they're saying they're doing all this business, they should be able to show you that they're doing all this business. And they should be able to provide you with a lot of value for free, right? Without trying to charge for it. Because if they were really making a lot of money in the actual business, they would need to be pushing so hard on social media, to generate money through courses and stuff like that. I mean, I stopped selling courses. I don't even sell any of them. I sell one thing, and that's the software. Then I give away like all the courses and all the training and all that other stuff alongside with it. And that's my main focus. So, verify, right? Verify. And if it looks like it's probably not real, there's a good chance that it's probably not.
Oh, I'm telling you right now, you're a giver. I really appreciate it. Got Adrian showing the love. He appreciates it.
Thank you.
You're dropping the gems. Everyone loves it. James, I'll be following you on IG, my dude. It's James on Instagram. Who is not real? Yeah, Joe. The reason I ask is there's people who claim they're doing 7-figure wholesaling and they're in my own market sometimes or in a virtual market, and I can look these people up. But that's kind of what I was stating there. So before we hop off here, I mean, the last question I always ask is, I started $300 in my bank account as a bag boy. It's why it's called the Bags to Riches podcast. You started with $900. I mean, if you were back in St. Augustine as an 18-year-old teenager, what would you do to become the next James Hawk?
Dude, I'm going to tell you right now, like if I was 18 again, I would be trying to buy as many properties as I possibly could. But what I would do is I would start out same type of way, wholesaling, but I would try to push it that much faster if I had the same knowledge that I had today, and ramp that up. And then I would just steadily be taking that cash and just buying as much, doing as many like burrs as I possibly could. So by the time I was 30, like I'm sitting on hopefully a pile of equity and a pile of cash flow. So I would take that approach right there. If I was starting all over again, just try to get to it as fast as possible. Clear out all the other BS, right, that you see on social media that's like, oh, I got to take this money and I got to go buy the Lambo. I got to go, to the design district and drop like 20 G's on like Givenchy and all this other stuff. Like clear all that out. Just put the blinders on and then just stay focused. And before you know it, like you'll be doing extremely well and you'll pass way further than any of your friends would be doing at that age, right? So you could really bump yourself ahead, and if you really wanted to, retire by 30 if you were doing it right.
Definitely. I mean, I know my business personally. I don't want to retire. I love this business too much to be retiring. I mean, have you found that too?
Yeah, no, I have no thoughts of like retiring anytime soon at all, because I enjoy the business, right? Like I like share and I like teach and everything because I want to give back. But I love the real estate investing business. That is my primary business. So that is my focus. But I appreciate like giving back because here's the thing. I never went to college. Like, I feel like I barely made it through high school, and I get it, right? Like I started with $900. I was in a 9-to-5 and, I always appreciated anyone that was willing to help me out and, help. So it's like Denzel said it in that one speech that he did at that one college. It was like, elevate yourself and then bring up another, that same type of mentality. You can really, really help people and help change their life. Because when it comes to the funeral day, man, when you're in the casket, no one's going to show up because of how much money you make. Right. But people are going to show up because you helped them. That's why they're going to show up.
That's powerful, man. I really appreciate it. Flipmorehouses.com. What training are you doing on there? Because I think you're doing some free on Instagram.
So it actually starts on Monday. I'm doing a live 30-day training on virtual wholesaling. It's going to be just very like chill, 30 minutes per day, not the weekends where we're just going to go step by step. We'll be sending some marketing together, talking to some sellers. Like we're going to start it out with like making sure everyone's on the same page of like what this is. And how it's going to work and all that stuff, like what is virtual wholesaling. And then we're going to progressively keep moving until actually like talking to sellers, marketing, working leads, following up, all that good stuff. But we're going to do that for 30 days straight. And it's exclusive just to members of RA Automator, and it's free.
Boom. James, thank you so much for coming on. Is there any parting thoughts you have for the guests?
Yeah. What I would say is, going into the new year, right? If you didn't get the results that you wanted to get this year, if you were already trying to be in the business, start trying to do deals, or you already were doing deals and you didn't do as many as you thought you were going to do. That means that something is not working, right? Which is common sense, but that means you got to change something. So do your best to figure out what is that thing that is really holding me back? And oftentimes it's right in front of your face, by the way. You don't realize it, but there is something that is holding you back. It could be mental, right? It could be, you don't have the right people, you don't have the right processes, whatever it is, but really look back over the year and say, hey, this was the goal. We didn't hit it. What was the real thing that held me back from hitting that goal? And make sure you change that going into the new year, because if you don't, then odds are you'll get the same results this coming year as you did last year if you don't fix that thing.
Boom. Thank you so much for coming on today. I wanted to just thank the whole Flip with Rick family for it. This is the last live video of 2020. I'm telling you guys, we started out 150 subscribers, getting 10 views a day. We're ending it with thousands of views every single day. I truly appreciate everyone's support. I'm telling you right now, next year, in the Bags Riches podcast, we'll be having 52 guests, and it is going to be amazing. Hopefully, we can have James on again.
Yeah,
goals. But thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Go give James a follow. You're on YouTube, right, too?
Yeah, I do have a YouTube channel as well, yeah.
What is it?
It's same thing at James Hawk.
All right, guys.
I appreciate you having me on here too, bro. Thank you.